Good evening. I'm reporting from the convention hall after the House of Deputies has closed, right before I get to go to supper, but I did want to update everyone on three very interesting things that occurred in the House of Deputies today, this afternoon. The first one was the Ecuadorian bishop confirmation or approval. It was a very fiercely fought battle on the floor of the House of Deputies, very much opposed by a number of Ecuadorians. The debate was really somewhat painful. I don't understand all the ramifications of what happened. I couldn't find any theological issues, but essentially what the Ecuadorians wanted was the ability to be able to vote for their own bishop and have their own bishop election rather than have our House of Bishops elect a bishop. At the end of the day, the Ecuadorian bishop that the House of Bishops had selected for Ecuador was approved. The Ecuadorian deputation table was very disappointed by this. I know a few facts from their process. 3 people out of 6 resigned from the Ecuadorian search committee. The Standing Committee of Ecuador wrote letters to our General Convention asking for him not to be approved. The deputies from the previous General Convention also wrote a letter asking for him not to be approved. And then today, in testimony, the president of their deputation did a very nice speech asking for him not to be approved. He was still approved. So that's the news from Ecuador. The Title IV revisions also came to the floor. The Title IV revisions are a little confusing. You will remember 3 years ago they were trying to do discipline of the laity, and that was very fiercely opposed. This time around they tried a milder version of Title IV revisions, and it had to do more with clergy discipline. And you'll find some analysis articles on our website, standfirminfaith.com, regarding the Title IV revisions, particularly the ones, the analysis by Tim Fountain and Sylvan Patrol. There is a little bit of confusion as to whether these were as bad as some people thought, and I'll give you a reason why. Kevin Babb of the Diocese of Springfield was the vice chair of the Canons Committee. It's a little hard for me to believe that Kevin Babb would support Title IV revisions that were as draconian as some thought they were, but essentially these revisions have, to me, some phrases that are large enough and ill-defined enough that you can drive a truck through them. And the problem for all of us is that we've lost trust in the authority figures that make the decisions about what defines words. Because as we all know, in the postmodern tech, the text doesn't mean anything. What the text means is what is interpreted to mean by the ruling authority with the power. And that's classic deconstructionism, it's classic postmodernism, that words don't mean anything, and so we no longer are a church really ruled by law, ruled by canon law, because those laws are now just freely interpreted to mean anything that the ruling authority wants. So words like injured parties or the doctrine and discipline of the church, it's hard to find out what the doctrine and discipline of the church is because it keeps changing. So it's understandable for Orthodox clergy to be very nervous over these Title IV revisions, but my caveat is I'm not confident that they are as bad as perhaps we have feared that they were, solely because of Kevin Babb. I mean, that's my main reason, and you'll just have to take that for what it's worth. The final important discussion on the floor of the House of Deputies this afternoon was on the change to the canons, adding gender identity and gender expression. This is different from sexual orientation in that gender identity and gender expression are phrases used to imply, get this carefully, that we all have choices about what gender we wish to identify with or express. We in a postmodern world, we've decided that our genders are not given to us by God, but that they are constructed. They're constructed by society and by our own choices, and therefore we get to choose what our identity and what our expression of gender is. So there was a debate on the floor. Our guys were fantastic. Neil Michel, candidate of the Ordinary of Dallas, moved for a vote by orders, which was, of course, appropriate because we do not want this to be passed. We don't want gender identity to be added to the canons, allowing people to seek ordination freely, even though they may be, for example, male, but choose to express themselves as female. The classic Christian understanding of gender identity would be that it is a disorder, that someone who is sexually male needs to express his identity as a male, and he's not female, whether he thinks that he's female or claims that he feels like a female or not. So Dallas, Central Florida, and Albany asked for a vote by orders. And then the debate continued. They then had to distribute, as I recall, paper ballots. And I'm sorry, they did do electronic voting, but that vote has not yet been announced. The results of the vote by orders has not been announced. There were some amendment moves, but I won't go into all those. You can check out our live blog from the House of Deputies later on tomorrow. Thank you and good evening. Hope you have a good night. Catch you later.